Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Spirituality and Business Interview Series. I have with me today the amazing Richa Jain. Richa helps women turn their true passion and their purpose into a profitable online business. And most of the women that she works with are spiritual entrepreneurs. So I'm very excited to have her with us today and to have her be able to share her experience with you. So thank you so much for joining us today, Richa. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me on, Zach. You've already done the formal business intro, but on a side note, I am a single mom. I live in India. I live in a small town in India, and I work with women entrepreneurs from around the globe. I have them set up a service-based business that is an expression of themselves, of their skills, of their passions. And yeah, it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that with us. I know that you talk a bit about your journey as a spiritual mom, building your business. It's been very inspiring to see what you've been able to build with yourself and what you're able to help your clients build. It's really wonderful to have you here with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about your spiritual path.
Well, this seems to be a common theme amongst a lot of of people on the spiritual path is that you have to go through a shitstorm. You have to and the way you come out. And when you're at rock bottom, when there feels like there's no other way to go, and somehow you find spirituality. Well, that's been my story as well.
Yeah, I understand.
It seems to be a common theme, man. I don't know why it is, but it is. So I think it was 2014. I was in an abusive marriage, 7 years. And there was emotional abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse. And 2014, I booked a house. We booked a house. I quit my job because I was having a lot of health issues. And then a couple of months later, he left. And a few months later, I found out that he'd been lying to me for 2 years. He never had a job. And, kind of like my world came crashing down. So I spent most of 2015 and 16 crying. And that's actually where my spiritual journey started. I was at rock bottom. In India, divorces or being a single mom is not done. It's taboo. And I hadn't told anyone around me. And then I came across, well, I'm not a very religious person per se, but I came across these different Facebook groups and I found that women started, strangers started supporting me. And I learned about alternative methods of healing, of energy, of connecting to self, of connecting to source. So as I learned those things, as I learned to play around with those things, well, that's been my spiritual journey. It's been learning on the go. It's been playing with stuff and being supported in this alternate, I don't know what to call it, but by the universe, by energy, by everything that is.
Yeah, beautiful. And thank you so much for sharing what you went through. I know.
I'm laughing about it now, but 2015 and 16, I couldn't stop crying.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, I can imagine. I've known so many women who've been in that place, and thank you so much for sharing that, so they know that they're not alone. And
and you know what? That's one major reason why I still keep sharing it. I wouldn't say my divorce just came through a few months ago, but and yeah, that doesn't trouble me the way it used to. But I still keep sharing that part of my journey because back when I was at rock bottom, back when things felt impossible, I didn't have anyone to reach out to, and I thought, there was no one to talk with. It was not something that people talk about. And one of the things that I do is I keep talking about the things that most people don't talk about. Things like abuse or feminism or sexism, because I feel that women's voices need to be heard, that women's voices have been silenced for too long. in the real world or on the spiritual path as well.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
it's important that we talk about these things.
It is. It really is. It is so important, and it's so amazing that you're sharing that. And I really appreciate you sharing that here with us today. Um, it is. It's so powerful to talk about, and it's so inspiring what you've been able to create from that. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us and talking about the things that people don't talk about. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so,
You know what? So while we're on this topic of the things
yeah,
that people don't talk about, let me also talk about something in business, in the business world. So
yeah,
I started my online business in 2014 and it's taken different forms. I've done copywriting, I've started a copywriting firm, I've done web design, and now I focus on business strategy. And in all of that, I did a lot of courses, I did a lot of programs, and they said, this is my 7-step formula to make 10K in a month. Or that is, this is the formula to make sure people sign up on your email
yes,
list, and all of these methods. And then you have people like Tony Robbins and how could I, Gary Vee, and
ah, yeah,
those kind of
yeah.
people who are very, very
Like
uh,
go, go, go.
predominant
Yeah,
in the online business world. And when you're starting your online business, those are the names that come
yeah,
up. And as a woman who had gone through that trauma, who had been silenced, who'd been gaslighted, and whose voice had been shut down, having again these guys kind of, come with their very, very loud message, felt off to me. I could not stand to listen to them. I could not, their advice did not resonate with me. That's not how I wanted to show up in business. That's not how I wanted to do business.
absolutely.
So, along with the spiritual journey, it was also about finding a way of working in the online business world, finding a business. I wouldn't say it's not just one strategy, but a methodology or
Yeah,
a way of working and a way of being that worked for me.
yeah,
Like I was telling you earlier, I think before the call, I used to be in the tech sector.
yeah.
I used to be a techie. I was in semiconductor software. Uh, 5 years to get my MTech, well,
Oh
BTech plus
wow.
MTech, and then another, how many? 14 years in
Oh
the
my goodness.
corporate world, which is all very, very male dominated,
Yeah,
very masculine energy. And in that period of time, 2015 and 16, when I was healing, when I was grieving and healing, I realized that that way of working, of being, the masculine way, the in your face, not just assertive, but aggressive ways of working did not, no longer work for me. That's no longer how I wanted to show up.
yeah,
That's no longer how I wanted to be. I wanted to experience life. I wanted to feel. I wanted to, connect with other people, meaningful connections, not just the kind of superficial stuff that we used to have. And so my spiritual journey, one major part of it was acknowledging and recognizing the difference between masculine energies and feminine
yeah,
energies. I will just use the word energy as a, way of being. And those are not gender specific, but it's different ways of working, different ways of being. And they are both necessary. So I went from one extreme, the masculine way of working, to an extreme feminine way, which is more about receiving and growing and nurturing, right? So I went the extreme, and now I'm trying to find a balance.
yeah, absolutely.
And I've seen this journey. I've seen many other women in the business world go through a
Yeah,
similar journey, trying to fit into the masculine way of doing things, and then finding it doesn't work for them, and then going to the other extreme, trying to find feminine ways of doing stuff, which a lot of people who talk about the feminine way of doing things talk about sitting back and going the slow way and letting people come to you, and
mm-hmm.
which again doesn't work. You have to
Yes,
have a balance.
you do.
So that's been understanding these two different kind of energies and trying to get their balance has been a major part of my
Yeah,
personal growth story as well as my business growth story.
yeah,
So
absolutely. And that is,
again, the things people don't talk about.
yes. And thankfully, like, I think that conversation is starting to blossom and open up more because, yeah, just like you've seen, I've seen many people who had that same experience of, they start in a really like extremely masculine, go to the extremely feminine. And for me, I know that my own journey with business has very much been about trying to balance um, different aspects, different kinds of energy, different ways of working, like really trying to find my balance in all of this. And
Yep. And
it,
especially as women, as moms who have to juggle 20,000 things and so many demands in our time.
yeah, that's definitely a problem that comes up a lot from many, many entrepreneurs. Um, and yes, when we come into this space of the online business, as you've seen, the main voices are like really, they tend to be men. Fortunately, more women are starting to share their voices, but they still tend to be that, hustle, 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 grind, 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 push,
Exactly.
push, push.
Exactly. So even though it's women, even though they're coming from the feminine space, the
Yeah.
advice, the business building advice they're giving
Mm-hmm.
is still that masculine hustle,
Yes,
hustle, hustle.
exactly. Yeah, and
So, yeah.
yeah, it can be really hard to find your right rhythm, and I really appreciate what you help your clients to do. It's something that I work with my clients with as well, as like, kind of trying to break out of that, hustle, 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 and really
Exactly.
finding the way that works without like just going completely the other way of, just waiting for people to come to you.
Exactly. It's about finding your groove. It's about finding, I wouldn't say balance. I think balance is not the right word, but it's finding the path that works for you. Okay. It may be whichever way it lean towards,
Yeah,
it's about finding the path that works for you.
exactly. Yes. Yeah, that's very much what I've seen as well. Yeah. So what are the top two challenges that you've faced as an entrepreneur who's spiritual?
Okay. So, one, we just talked about the masculine and the feminine, but the second is being, you know, everyone on my friends or my friends in real life or the people who've known me for years, they're not spiritual in that they think this is all crazy woo talk. And so I can't talk about this stuff with them. I can't talk about energy or balancing your energy or connecting with source or that kind of stuff with them. But surprisingly, it wasn't intentional, it happened. All of my clients are on their own spiritual journey. And when I tell them, okay, something feels off in your energy, let's do this quick visualization or let's do this quick clearing exercise, they are on for it. They understand instantly. So along with business strategy and website stuff and copy and all of that, we also have this energetic connection. And I know that, and this is going to be weird for me when we do make this public and it goes on my personal profile, I'm going to have a lot of friends wondering what the heck I'm talking about. So again, it's been about that balance, about learning something that's new, about finding my space in that thing, finding what works for me in the spiritual world, and balancing that with, the real world that is not understanding or appreciative of such things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I face one bottleneck or one wall being a single mom in India and
Mhm.
openly saying that I'm divorced. I've stopped trying to cover it up. The first year, I would say that my husband is traveling, but then, how could someone be traveling for so long and never visit and have no contact? So, uh, yeah. So one part of it is the fact that I'm divorced and I'm very open about it, and I'm very open about the abuse that I went through and the craziness that single mom life is.
It is.
And I hope to start being more open about my own spirituality on with my friends.
Yeah.
But and again, I think in the woo community, this is also one of the constant struggles,
Yes, it
how to
is.
come out of the closet, so to speak. And
Yes.
we find these safe spaces, these Facebook groups, these closed circles where we can talk about this
Yeah.
stuff, where we can explore this stuff further, because there's no end to exploring it, right? It's an infinite universe. There is infinite modalities. There's just so much to learn,
There is.
and but we can only do it in these safe
Yeah.
spaces.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other challenges.
It is. Yes. And so again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. I've like known you sort of. We've been in the same spaces for many months now. And yeah, I have noticed that or at least I haven't noticed much spiritual messaging or anything like that in your branding or your marketing. So I didn't realize that this is something that you haven't really like come out about openly. So I really appreciate you
Yeah,
agreeing to do this. Really, thank you
like I
so
said,
much.
it's not there in my branding or my messaging
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah.
And yet, most of my clients are women on similar journeys. When I talk to them about this stuff, especially in our one-on-ones and even in my group programs, I'm running a group program right now. We're close to wrapping it up, called the More Boot Camp, and there's strategy, there's implementation, and there's a separate section about meditations and affirmations and
Wow,
energy exercises.
that's
So it's there.
beautiful.
My clients are fine with it, though I don't talk about it in my branding and stuff, which also goes to show, the whole law of attraction thing.
Yes.
You you can show up as you or parts of you. It's
Yeah.
also I'm not yet at that stage of my journey where I openly
Hmm.
own this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? So yet the people who come to me accept that part of me as well.
And that's
And
beautiful.
that's the beauty of it.
Yes. Absolutely. And so I know one thing that comes up a lot when I talk to entrepreneurs who are also spiritual is kind of feeling that tug of war about wanting to be true to themselves, but not necessarily wanting to create a business where they're just like all woo all the time. So I'd love
Exactly.
for you to talk a little bit
Exactly.
more about how that journey kind of unfolded with how you started to realize that your clients, even though you weren't particularly specifically targeting them, they were still finding you and they were open to it and you could include it in your work, even though it wasn't, part of your public brand.
It's like this, who you are shows up in all that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Whether you announce it, whether you put up a banner for it or not, who you are shows up in all that you do. So your people will find you. And being spiritual doesn't mean that being a spiritual person in business doesn't mean that every offer, everything that you put out there has to have soul centered and aligned and all of those keywords, right? They don't. It's about your presence, it's about how you show up. You don't have to advertise it, you don't have to put up a placard.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about how you show up.
Yes.
And since you brought this up, another thing that I find a lot of spiritually inclined entrepreneurs struggle with is charging for their services
Very true.
and feeling that everyone needs this. I should give it to everyone. I want to help everyone,
Yeah.
which is all very fine. And I appreciate that. And it's a very noble gesture. And you're welcome to do it if you have other sources of income and you have a roof over your head and food on the table. But if you're struggling to make ends meet and if you want to turn this into a business, you are free to do so. The universe isn't going to stop you. You're free to charge for your services. That's just money is just an energy exchange, just like any other form of energy. You don't have to undercharge. You don't have to target everyone. You are not responsible for saving the whole world. You can focus on a particular group of people that you're going to help, and you can charge the right amount of money, what feels right for you, for your work. It's a business. At the end of the day, you have to remember that there is business, there's spirituality, there's your gifts. And if you want to make money from it, if you're relying on it for your income, you have to find the mean path between helping everyone and running a business.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that is something that I've seen a lot of people struggle with. I know that I struggled with it as well when I first started integrating the spiritual aspects into the business coaching I was already doing, because I'd been doing volunteer work for years before that, and it felt so weird and gross to start charging money for something that so many people needed. But what I realized was that when I charge money, when I'm able to make money from it, I can actually reach more people. I can do more good.
Exactly. I have the same dialogue with my clients all the time as well.
Absolutely.
It's like you don't have to keep selling $10 an hour packages or $20 an hour packages. You don't have to run a $10 per month membership program. If you are good, if you can deliver the results, if you can help people through that transformation, charge what you're worth, charge what that transformation is worth for them. Because when you have a stable income coming in, say you're working with 5 high-end clients and that helps you make 10K a month. Wow, that's awesome. Because by just working with those clients, you are financially stable, and it frees up a lot of your time and energy and bandwidth to create a lot of free content and free YouTube videos and free tutorials for everyone else. So by charging these 5 people high end and they can afford it and they're happy with it, you have opened up your time, space, and energy to help hundreds and thousands of more people for free. Versus if you've been struggling with a $10 an hour or $10 per month membership program and struggling to make ends meet, and you were always caught up in that struggle, right?
Exactly.
So again, it's about finding what works for you. But charging money doesn't mean that you're not helping people.
No, not at all. And yes, absolutely. When you start charging money, it can help free you up to help more people. I've seen people say that like money, it's not good or bad. It's an amplifier. So if you're a good person, then the more money you have, the more good you can do.
Exactly. Yep.
Great. So again, thank you so much for sharing everything that you did today. Thank you for opening up about your spirituality when it's not something you talk about publicly so often. I'm really very honored to have been able to have this conversation with you. You shared so much amazing insight and advice. I really appreciate it, and I know everyone watching does as well. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with us today?
Just a simple message of trusting yourself.
Yes.
Trusting yourself, trusting your journey. Back when I was in a bad relationship, I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust what I was feeling, what I was experiencing. I trusted him and what he was saying. When I started my business, I again didn't trust myself that I could do it. When I started my spiritual journey, I kept thinking, this is all mumbo jumbo. I don't trust what's happening to me. I used to have these phases where I'd just want to sit and do nothing, and I would feel this. Now I could say that it was an influx of energy or some kind of healing happening. Then I didn't know what it was. So I thought I was going crazy. Whatever is happening, trust yourself. Trust that you're doing the right thing and have faith that you will make it through whatever it is.
Very beautiful.
And so again, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, and also I know that you have a freebie page to share with us today.
Yes. So my website is therichajain.com. It's a pun on my name, so you will have to look up the spelling. It's not spelled like my name.
And that is below us. So you've got the link to it right there.
So you can go to therichajain.com/start-biz. Okay, that has a bunch of freebies for those of you who are just starting out your business, and I'm sure it'll be super helpful.
It is. I've seen this page. Richa has so much amazing content that she gives away for free. Very, very valuable for anyone who is in the beginning of starting their business, especially online service-based businesses, of course. So it is well worth checking those out. And again, the link to that is below this video, so you can find it very easily. Thank you so much again for joining us today, Richa, and sharing everything that you did. It was so amazing and so valuable. I am so grateful for you coming on here and sharing that with all of us. And again, to everyone watching, thank you so much for joining us as well. It's been absolutely amazing having you all as part of this journey. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you, everyone watching.
Yes, all right.